this is the kind of thing.
Anyway.
For you watching at home and for you here, this is not a spectator sport, is it?
Yeah.
This is about being heard. And you know us, but you also know the powerful women in your own life. You are a powerful woman. Make them hear you when it comes to how we proceed, even in your local area.
You know, Tammy, I want to say something about that, because we need buy-in from men and women within this movement.
Yes.
We need everybody to understand those statistics that you just heard are damning for conservatism. If women don't think that we represent them, we've got to do something about that. I know where a lot of folks are coming from. 10 years ago, I would have said, I'm not talking differently to women. I'm a conservative. I believe in the fundamental ideas, and I'm not doing what the left does.
Me too.
Well, I have totally changed on that, folks, because women think that we don't represent them. We need to change how we talk to women, we need to think about our messaging, and are we directly reaching out to women? Some of the issues that we don't hit on are the best issues for women. Gun control. You really want your daughters to be defenseless on college campuses and not be able to defend themselves? Use those issues.
That's a woman's issue.
It's a woman's issue, but we run away from it. And I want to say one thing about what Marilinda said about running for office, how women need a little extra push. She is exactly right. When I was chairman of the Republican Party of Virginia, I started a women's leadership training program. First day, first class, I said, how many of you 25 incredibly successful women, business leaders, would consider running for office? One little timid, tiny hand went up. After 8 months of training in how to network, how to raise money, how to speak publicly, I said, how many of you would consider running for office? Every hand shot up proudly, boldly in the air. We need those women to run for office.
And that's the key. I think we have the message, but we lack the messengers, not because they don't exist, but because they're busy doing other things of value in society and in our public sphere. What we have to do is say, can you take that, channel that, and run for office? That way, it's not, an artificial thing where you say, okay, we need a woman, let's use her face, which whoever brought it up, that Obama did with these celebrities, right?
Right.
That's not what we want. What we want is we want to take the pool of talent we have and just empower those women and plant the seed, say, run, ask them to run.
And then when they run, though, we've got to back them up, because they're going to be attacked more viciously than any of the male candidates. The men have to be backing them up, whether you like them or not, back them up.
And we also, and to Kate's point, we not just encourage, look, women, we always second guess ourselves, like you pointed out earlier, whether it's to go ask the boss for a raise, right? Or we always we don't want to take a leadership role because we're socialized not to. So what I say too is, women only gave 26% of all the funds raised during the 2010 midterm elections. That's awful, ladies. Pull out those wallets. If you know Marilinda, any other women running, give them $5 for Pete's sake. What is $5? It's a gallon of ice cream.
I'll tell you my website later.
You're going to learn how to reach all these women. And it is the superstars. It will be someone like Mia Love from Utah that takes this country back. Right? And now, speaking of 2010, and everyone's focusing on a midterm that's coming up, we know women made that historic revolution happen. Women-led Tea Party, which is effectively the stakeholders of this country, speaking about economic issues, about our families. How will that, or can it translate to 2014? Sabrina, it's a much more visceral kind of response than maybe polling can give us or strategy sessions can give us. But what about that point of view of women at the ground level, at the foundation, when it comes to what we understand instinctually?
Well, I think you're right. Look, in 2010, it was the first time in 20 years that we saw the gender gap close.
Yes.
This scared Democrats, no doubt. But I think it's going back to the message, and it's going back to actually addressing these issues and not running away from them. I remember right early on in the 2012 election when Governor Romney was presented with the question of the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. He was unprepared. And guess what? I guess still today, 99% of Republican candidates are still unprepared to answer that question. They're unprepared to talk about the wage gap. They're uncomfortable because they think maybe there's a grain of truth to it. Guess what? There is a gap. It's not 77 cents to the dollar, but there is a gap. Does discrimination exist? Sure, some discrimination exists, but is that the overwhelming reason? Are women still a victim class that need constant government protection? No. And so we have to just start wrapping our minds around this, getting comfortable with it, and getting out there, whether you're a man or a woman, because we still have a lot of men in office.
Isn't that the difference between, Crystal, the conservative message versus the liberal message? That the conservative point of view is things are difficult, women are required for reform, but we're not moving forward as victims, we're moving forward as conquerors, versus the liberal attitude of wanting big government to infantilize us and to take care of us. Isn't that the inherent difference between the two messages?
That's exactly the message. And it's the same message Democrats employ with women that they do with blacks. Blacks are helpless.
Right.
Blacks can't advance unless we have government, nanny government, to carry us along the way. That's what we saw with Julia. So the way to combat that, though, you know, the life of Julia should be insulting to any woman. Why didn't Mitt Romney just say that? Or have, you know, again, his surrogates. Why didn't we see more women out there for him saying, I'm insulted that he thinks that I can relate, Democrats and President Obama think that I can relate to Julia. Julia never had a man in her life. She had a baby out of wedlock, and this is where we win with blacks and women. We talk about the value of marriage. It's not to say that sometimes divorce happens, you're widowed, but let me give you, and we need to talk about the benefits of intact families, especially when it comes to minority women. Yep. But let me give you a real quick stat, which is, I mean, what we know is that, and I think it's Heritage that did some research around this, or maybe it was Brookings, but you know, if you are born, the power of marriage to give children the foothold in this world, it's just irreplaceable, because two parents are going to make sure the child does the homework, likely graduates from high school, and we know all the advantages to that. When a woman has a baby out of wedlock, she will never earn as much as a woman who was married and widowed or divorced, okay? So why aren't we, that's our platform, right? We are for the family. So we should talk about these issues in a compassionate way. Education helps young single moms get their kids out of failing schools. It is about educational empowerment, school choice, and vouchers. And right now, President Obama's Justice Department is trying to kill the voucher program in Louisiana.
See, and this is the connection as conservatives, that we want personal freedom, financial freedom, and that these are the kinds of connections that make that possible. Now, and I want to follow up on that with you, Kate, in the sense of, when we talk about these things that are relevant to every woman, regardless of party, regardless of complexion, sexual orientation even, whoever you are, these things matter. Right. What do we do? And both of you, of course, you're in the arena. What makes the difference? Is it women who are advising candidates? Is it, besides women running, what would make a difference for the man or the woman? And by the way, it's not just any woman for the president, right? It's the right woman, and I mean to the right.
Amen. Amen to that.
This is about, you know, the right woman who understands about economic freedom and not dependency. How do we break free from this problem that's been very well articulated here?
Well, I think you make a great point, and it's a caveat that we're not up here saying, oh, we just need to get any women faces up there on the stage and on the screen. We're talking about principled, conservative women who carry forth a message. But I think one thing that I've been talking a lot about defending ourselves and articulating a positive message, a freedom message for women, explaining to them we think of them as more than the sum of their body parts. But actually, frankly, this is one of my favorite things to do. I think we need to go on offense. We need to attack, because women are at an all-time high for poverty rates right now. We need to point out the destruction of the leftist policies on the family, but on women in particular. And you know, a lot of times we conservatives sound really insensitive to single women. Divorced women, heaven forbid, I'm one of them, and sometimes they can be a little rough. But we need to point out the fact that their economic circumstances are being decimated by Barack Obama, and he's intentionally doing that. Their educational opportunities are being eviscerated, all-time high poverty rate for single women, lack of opportunity for getting a job because businesses are not hiring because of all of the regulations and the taxes. Let's talk about how this impacts individual women, and for Pete's sake, let's go on offense. But you bet, Tammy, we have got to be advising our male candidates how to talk about these things. We cannot have any stupid comments this year, okay? No stupid comments. Think. think.
Tammy,
You might think you're being funny. You might think that it might be kind of funny. Please think before you make pithy, obnoxious comments. Think about how it's going to be spun. Can it be used to play into that war on women mantra? We need to be going on offense and not stabbing ourselves.
And the issue is, of course, we don't have control of the media. There are some great outlets like the Washington Times, Fox News, Investors Business Daily, but anything, it's an unfair playing field. We know that, and that's what makes Republicans and conservatives better candidates, because we have to be, right? Now, you're in the field, you're in the arena. How is this as a woman? Women, look, you guys are going to get Sarah Palin up here in a little bit, right? All right. There's a reason why women candidates resonate. You're in that arena. How do you, and you are, as a result, a role model. You're not a bureaucrat. How does this translate when it comes to your power? Look, this is about power, ladies, right? This is about power and how we want to exercise it. How has that affected you in your work?
Well, I actually had an instance when I first entered the race. Within 24 hours of my filing an announcement, I was attacked on Twitter and from a Democratic colleague, and who specifically was specifically making references to me and my physical appearance and things like that. And I had a fundraising letter come out from Ann Custer, my current representative that I'm trying to defeat, and the DCCC, and they all commented on me as a threat, you know, because of my values, they said, but we know that it's because of what I embody.
That's right.
Anyway, so the way I responded to that, and which I think is true, and something we have to take and point out, that the reason, you know, people are upset with gridlock in Washington and, you know, the lack of good people up there and all these things they say, the general perception of Washington. Well, then why, as a society, and particularly coming from the left, when someone like me jumps into the race, why do they attack us, you know, on petty and personal things? This is the reason why good people don't run for office. This is the reason why women don't run for office, because who wants to deal with that kind of thing?
But I think it's, Marilinda, you raise a great point, and I know the reprehensible things that were said about you. Erica Harold also had awful things said about her because she was Mia Love, because they were women and women of color, even more importantly, and conservative. But they do this because they want to, the left wants you out of these races because you break these stereotypes that minorities are supposed to be beholden to the Democrat Party. You're supposed to feel enslaved to the Democrat Party and the policies that haven't helped us advance, you know, for the last 50 years, frankly. So, and I think when we're talking about, it's not just women, but really, where are the men in our party and leadership? They need to come out very quickly and swiftly, like Kate, I think you alluded to this.
Michelle Bachmann, did they ever defend Michelle Bachmann? I didn't see them defending Michelle Bachmann.
To men, it's never cool to talk about rape and laugh or anything like that. And you've got to come to the defense of Marilinda and women like her when they're out there, because we know, like you said, women don't want to run. It's just going to discourage them. So we need leadership to swiftly condemn this crap, period.